In showing my appreciation for those subscribers that have rocked with me, I will be giving away a set of universal spike foot pads courtesy of Free Motion. These CNC foot pads are anodized with an extra hard coating that resists scratches and scuffs. They are equipped with reinforced and hardened teeth which provide for a uniform and stable grip on your shoes during riding. The added touch of the reflective tape to the front and back of the foot pads gives that extra visibility during those late and unusual rides. The winner will have a choice between silver or black. Anyone interested in getting in on this giveaway needs to reply in the comment section below. I want a pair of, and please specify your color, silver or black, Free Motion CNC foot pads before 11:59 June 4th. The drawing for the spike foot pads will be held on June 5th and announced in an upcoming video. Free Motion, who is sponsoring the giveaway, information can be found in the description box below. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm back from a long winter's nap. Now that I got that out of my system, what has been going on with my unicycle fam? I've been raring to go, but that damn Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow, which gave us 6 more weeks of winter, as if 2020 wasn't cruel enough to us. But nevertheless, with the warmer weather about to grace us East Coast hibernated gliders, I'll be out and about doing what I do best, filming. So for you very talented gliders, let me know what's gliding in your area, and we can make it happen. With that being said, let's get into this video. Someone clamorously foolish retort about the MSS being so yesteryear goes to show you that arguing with a fool is the easiest way to become one. From the standpoint of being an offshoot of the MSP, the MSS in its modification is, in my opinion, the workhorse of the iteration of the MSX series. What Daniel of EUCService has done with the MSP is to convert it to a more aggressive version of itself, the MSS. Tweaking the motor, as only Daniel knows how, he took the MSP's 2,000 watt motor, upgraded it to 2300 watt, and branded it with a red motor cover, differentiating it from its lineage. At the expense of not trying to sound more mechanically inclined than I am, I will say this much. Whatever modification that went into that 2300 watt motor, Daniel did the damn thing. Damn, could you say that 3 times fast? Although some may agree to disagree with me about this next statement, my experience with owning the 84 volt MSX, 100 volt 1840 watt MSX, the 100 volt 2200 watt MSX, the MSP, and the RSS have given me enough exposure to base my opinion that, hands down, the battery coming in at 2250 watt and the motor of the MSS are equally yoked, which will allow for optimal performance that have not been seen or talked about amongst the MSX iteration of wheels out the gate. And I will preference out the gate. Although not the fastest EUC compared to the likes of the veteran Sherman and the Monster Pro, the initial torque of the MSS and weight class afford any rider a lean as far forward as centrifugal force will allow without face planting, making it the quickest EUC out the gate in comparison to its slow-to-start nemesis. I'd be sorely remiss if I did not mention the performance pads that EUCService offers for the MSS, which when used in conjunction to dragging, made acceleration quicker and the control manageable. 2 key features when gaining leverage over an opponent. Also, noteworthy of mention, someone asked whether the padding of the pads flattened from leaning against something like their Russian pads. From the many months of transporting the MSS on its side and leaning against surfaces, the EUCService pads have yet to lose their thickness or in this case, flatten. But that's for another video. Although not a key feature of the MSS, I find it noteworthy of mention, since it was a total package and can't affect performance, the Natanove spike foot pegs are not a fan favorite of mine. As a semi-aggressive rider, I found the pegs did not offer me enough stability in tight turns. It was a constant struggle trying to keep my feet from slipping and causing wobbles, as you can see in the aerial shot of my drone. At one point, I looked down at my right foot in frustration. Attempts at switching shoes did not alleviate the problem. Here I demonstrate exactly what happens when I apply a down and outward pressure on my foot in tight turns. Just for shits and giggles, I decided to do a water test, and as I suspected, the pegs' performance will worsen. Although the Natanove pegs are not to my liking, it is not to say the pegs are not ideal for other gliders. Dubbing it the workhorse of the iteration of the MSS series doesn't mean the MSS comes with no limitations, as Zoomwheel Brian of the UK quickly found to be the case. In his attempt at scaling a steep embankment several times in a row, his MSS finally succumbed to his demands, resulting in a fried motherboard. Although the torque of the MSS is its best feature, it is also its Achilles heel. The design of the motor is such that one would be hard-pressed to faceplant by overleaning the wheel. Although it is not designed to endure the constant stresses of a steep gradient back-to-back, it will do its damn thing when confronted with one. In the two hills I tested, the first a grassy knoll angled at 38 degrees, the MSS scaled it with no hint the motor was being pushed to its limit. The second such hill I tackled ascended more than a quarter of a mile and consisted of sand, dirt, mud, and tall grass. As you can see by the low speed from which I am climbing the hill, it was a challenge, and at no time did the motor grind and or whine, unlike the sound my veteran Sherman made on a less steeper surface consisting of similar substrate minus the tall grass. So you can get a better view of what the hill looked like, this is from the street level. While conducting a range test of the MSS, I was met by many variables that made the trek undesirable. The weather did not pan out to be as warm as it was slated to be, so the 70-degree weather was actually 64, 58 with the wind chill. And because I used two main arteries to test the range, several times and I care to count, I was caught in high wind backdraft of cars pretending to obey the posted speed limit of 55 miles per hour. As if freezing hands and feet while fighting wind gusts wasn't enough, at 27.3 miles into my travel, I punctured my tire, thus limping the remaining 25 miles back to my car. As you can see from the photo, I was literally riding on a flat tire. Even though the conditions of my range test was not ideal, and having to call it quits with 18% battery life at 52 miles in, I can safely say the wheel can get over 60 miles on a charge. But the question is, how much more over 60? I guess that will have to be for another video. Haha! I know you didn't think I was going to allow a punctured tire and Mother Nature to stave off the range test for another video. As luck would have it, a little slime was all that was needed, coupled with a day of clear skies. Several days later, I was back at it, and to my surprise, I was able to complete the range test without much hindrance. Taking the conservative approach and weighing in at 142 pounds fully geared, I spent a total of 8 hours and 28 minutes on the MSS, with 2 long breaks in between, and was able to travel 95.43 miles on a full charge. Although the conservative approach isn't ideal under normal riding conditions coupled with variations of rider weight and terrain, it's safe to say that given a situation at a maximum, a 142-pound rider traveling conservatively can travel over 90 miles on a full charge with the MSS. According to the EUC World app, my first 6-hour leg, I traveled 70.81 miles. After a 3-hour break, I traveled 20.46 miles within a 2-hour window on 5% battery. Seeing the light at the end of this arduous feat, I squeezed out 4.16 miles in 28 minutes on 1% battery, giving me a grand total of 95.43 miles. In closing, because the MSS is a modern version of the MSP and the MSP is no longer in circulation, the gripes and grumbling about this wheel is, what's so special about a wheel no longer in circulation that costs more? Quite frankly, it's not about the wheel nor its cost, as it is about a company that has ignored some of the issues of its customers for well over 5 years with their substandard quality control issues, and a man stepping up to the plate and addressing some of those issues. Like most Gotway loyalists, Daniel saw firsthand how shoddy the workmanship of Gotway wheels rolling off the assembly line. Like most of us, he too made suggestions on how Gotway could improve upon their wheels. But like we have experienced, his suggestions fell on deaf ears, and in the meantime, countless loyalists attempted to implement changes on their own and sought the help of jerry-riggers that were less than qualified to perform the work on their wheels than the factory workers themselves. We witnessed wheels catching on fire while riding, burnt motherboards from being overworked, wire gauges too small to handle its load, overworked batteries, underworked motors, and the list continued on. Daniel went to work and applied his expertise and created a more efficient and reliable wheel that any loyalist would be pleasantly surprised to experience. And given the fact that MSS is a spawn of an outdated wheel, one would not know it if not for its looks. Its handling and performance hands down outshine any MSX, MSP, RS iteration on the market. I say this knowing that MSS is the only balanced wheel in that line that has been carefully designed, put together, and inspected by a qualified technician. Some would argue the 2200 watt MSX is also balanced, but the way in which that wheel is put together and the constant battery sag during long stretches of speed, it is in no way more efficient than an MSS. Now, everything else being equal, the MSS is, like most iterations of the MSX, MSP, RS line, a joy to ride. Rolling down stairs, popping curves, and overall leaning hard forwards and backwards, as well as taking hills, the wheel just never gave any indication it struggled to perform those tasks. Even the range test, the wheel continued going until it reached 79.5 volts before it started beeping with 95 plus miles on a single charge. Very impressive, and that, my friends, is what happens when a wheel is efficient and balanced amongst other things. So as I ride off into the sunset, or on this day the clouds, to ride another day, having experienced what a quality Gotway wheel feels like, I have this to say to the gripes and grumblers. The result of quality work lasts longer than the shock of a higher price. With that being said, you guys know what time it is. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment, good, bad, or indifferent. So until next time, deuces.